Hello and welcome to Tracy Mommy Reads. I am back again with another video. Today, I'm going to be talking about the book It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. It's Not Her. I have read several books by this author at this point, and she writes in the suspense, like mystery thriller type genre, and this is in that same genre. I always like her books because they start off like with the issue. There's not like a few chapters in. It's like first chapter, a kid is missing. First chapter, somebody died. First chapter, whatever. And then the story works forward trying to solve it and backwards kind of in tandem, giving you like backstory. And I like stories that are structured like that. Now, this particular one, I'm gonna read the blurb so that I don't give away too many spoilers. Then I'll let you know what my thoughts were on it. Okay, so it says, a stunning discovery, a shocking investigation, a truth no one could have imagined. Courtney Gray's tranquil family vacation is shattered when she hears a blood-curdling scream from the lakeside cottage next door. There she finds the lifeless bodies of her brother and sister-in-law. Her teenage niece, Reese, is nowhere to be found, while her nephew, Wyatt, lies asleep upstairs unharmed. Okay, as the police descend on the quiet resort town, disturbing secrets about Courtney's family start to emerge. When she learns that the town has secrets of its own, it makes her wonder if Reese is another victim in a brutal crime, or is she the killer? So Courtney begins to unravel the terrible mystery, but everyone around her has something to hide. And the closer she gets to the truth, the harder it is to see. So just from that blurb, is what made me want to read this one. And it's Book of the Month selection. And I know I've talked about Book of the Month, at nauseum probably on my channel. But I have been a part of it for a few years maybe. And I enjoy the fact that you can, there's no charge if you skip a month and you like, I got too many books to read, or I don't like any of the books because they give you I want to say 5 or 6 selections that you can choose from as your book of the month. And then they have other books like in their catalog or library that you can do as an add-on. And sometimes I've done that, but I've skipped a lot because I have so many books. And then, like I said, sometimes it's just not something I'm interested in. But most of the time they have some pretty popular books. And if you watching some of the TikTok, book talk things, or specifically on Instagram where I spend most of my time when I'm on social media, you'll see a lot of people when they're talking about books that they liked, or they're doing their little reels or carousels or whatever, you'll always see this little logo in the corner. I mean, I feel like here's enough. I don't think y'all need to desecrate the cover of these books, book of the month. Okay, y'all can just leave it right there. We get it. And sometimes on the back, y'all have it there. It's just overkill, and you're messing up the covers. Okay, just something, food for thought. Anyway, let's get into my thoughts on this book specifically, and not book of the month. So I think when the book starts off, like it says that, Courtney hears a blood-curdling scream. Well, the scream is actually from her young niece. And I think the little girl may have been she wasn't over 10 years old, right? So she comes running from their cottage next door, and she has blood on her, and, and Courtney's just like, are you hurt, or what's going on? And then like the blurb says, she goes over there and she finds the bodies. So just right out the gate, we jump into the story, and we're like, okay, what happened? So let me just say this before I even get started. I enjoyed the book, but I have to keep my personal asides aside. I cannot stand real life or in books, just surly ass, mouthy teenagers. I cannot stand that, you're first of all, your prefrontal lobe isn't even fully formed. You are 1,000% dependent on your parents. You know, you can't even take care of yourself, but the way you talk to people and the way, you know, you treat people is it's just unacceptable. I don't give a shit. And I'm not saying, like, especially to bring more context in, we're talking about like teens that do this and they have parents who genuinely love and care for them. And you know, maybe their teen is just going through that awkward phase. But I'm not talking about like kids who are like abused, or their parents are assholes, or their parents are, you know, missing in action, or they treat. I'm talking about from the way that the author describes it from the outset, and even when you get to like get into the chapters, like in this particular book, Reese, who is the niece, that's so annoying that that word rhymes. Reese, the niece, who is gone missing. You know, when Courtney goes over, she finds her brother's body. She finds her sister-in-law's body. She actually doesn't know that her nephew is even upstairs, because after she sees what's happened at the bottom on the first floor, she leaves to go, you know, get help or call the police or whatever. But when they realized that, because she thought everybody was probably had been unalived, but when the police find Wyatt, you know, it's like, well, where was my niece? And they're like, there was nobody else in the house. That's when they know that, you know, she's missing. But Reese is the one I'm specifically talking about that had this whole attitude thing going on. And a big part of it, and I guess again, it goes back to the prefrontal lobe thing, because you don't know how to communicate your feelings. You just act out and treat everybody like shit. Unacceptable. But her parents were like going through some stuff, right? And I feel like when that happens, like I mean in regards to their relationship, like the fighting, bickering, like they were just over each other, but it was, you know, evident they were trying to stay together for their kids. They had 3 kids, so they, you know, were trying to stay together for them. But at some point, I mean, kids are smart enough, they see the distance between you, and then you kind of forget they're in the room and you start saying all kind of nasty things and mean things to each other. And that's kind of where her parents were in their relationship. Her mom a lot of times tried to, you know, bite her tongue, but sometimes she just couldn't help it, and she would explode, then the dad would explode, and, you know, it would be this whole thing. And I get, yeah, 1,000%, but, you know, you shouldn't do that in front of your kids. Try to avoid that at all costs. But people forget, I mean, they're human, right? The parents are human, and sometimes your emotions get the better of you, whether, you know, you intend for it to happen or not. But still, does not excuse the behavior of 2 of those kids, because even Wyatt was a little asshole. It's like, I guess you feel like now it's carte blanche for you. Well, y'all talk crazy to each other. We can all just talk crazy. But no, because I could go on and on about that, and that's not what y'all are here for. But that a lot of times turns me off from books, because I'm like, I'm not going to read, you know, a whole book where these kids are just saying all kind of shit and the parents are just trying to, you know, kiss their ass because they feel responsible in some way that the kids are having such a rough time. No. So anyway, back to the book. Early on, especially after it was found out that Reese was missing, like she wasn't in the house, you know, and then Wyatt, he also was a little total asshole, but everybody I like was kind of like side-eyed and like, okay, this, you know, you could have did it, because the parents have been fighting each other and, you know, accidentally offed each other. Then we start to get the backstory of like how the trip came to be, you know, like Reese and her family, when they were in the car on the way there to the cottages, Reese had met a boy there, like well, he wasn't even a boy, because she was like, I think she was going into her maybe last year of high school or something. She was in high school, but I think the guy that she met, he was like in his early 20s, like if not older, right? And he worked at the like the resort where they were staying in the woods. That's another thing. I ain't gonna stay in no cabin in the woods. That's just most of these books, it is so funny because if you go and you look at some of these like mystery thriller type books where people have been, killed or like they're missing, it's always in the woods. Stay out the woods because it's always like something like that. But anyway, he worked there and, he was flirting with her and she was having a terrible, like something had happened at her school, right? Because I don't know, maybe in her case, now that I'm remembering, but still, it's like get some help or get yourself together. But she may have had some kind of issue where I don't know, it's not like Tourette's, but like where she couldn't control like her emotions or something. And I'm like, y'all better get that girl some medicine because couldn't be me. Couldn't be me. But anyway, she had something happen to her at school where she was kind of outcast and like her best friend had stopped dealing with her or whatever. And he was saying all this guy that she met at the place, was saying all the right things and making her feel, so attractive and wanted and all this stuff that she apparently needed at the time. So, immediately I was like, he did it. Every time a new character was introduced, I was like, he did it. And, we just get more story, how he was luring her out into the woods. There was a cemetery. Oh, and let me back up. When she first met him, like they were, I guess it was like a recreation type center on the grounds of the resort, where like you could rent movies, there were like video games, like different things like that for people to hang out. And they had a poster on the wall of a girl that went missing, right? From that same campground. That in itself would have made me stay in the cabin or close to my people. But no, Reese met him out in the middle of the woods at night after everybody had went to sleep and, so they could fool around or do whatever to help her with her self-esteem. And that particular night, nothing happened, but like there were signs that he was very possessive, right? And then, another family came. He was kind of like flirting with another girl because, he's a local. Like these girls and these families, they come here seasonally. So I'm sure he's just like hedging his bets. Okay, I'm going to flirt with her, see if I can get anything, popping over here. Okay, she don't. Okay, well, I'm going to go to this one. He was that kind of guy, preying on these girls who were like obviously too young for him. But the thing that really, I think that really was tripping me up was that Courtney, Reese's aunt, she found some pictures of Reese because, she's like 17 years old at that age and stage where girls start to develop, and she had on a bikini or whatever. And she found pictures of her on her husband's iPad. So it's like, okay, he did it. He's a pervert. Like I was just like, every time something happened, I was like, oh, that person did it. And then there was this issue with Wyatt where he kind of like allegedly was sleepwalking and did something. And I was like, no, he did it because he's psychotic. But I will tell you that none of my guesses were correct. Okay. It was definitely someone that had been introduced, but I never even even thought in that direction. But what was crazy is I felt like that this author in general, she does a really good job at introducing very plausible like suspects, because there was I just thought about it. There was also a thing where they went they were looking for Reese, and how they have people go out, especially in the woods, and they'll like be having their sticks and stuff combing through the tall grass, and they're calling out people's names. So it was like a search party type thing. And the parents of the girl who had went missing before, they came out to help because, they felt bad that, their daughter never came back, and, they were hopeful that they would help find Reese or whatever. So every character, every time somebody's like introduced in the story, there's this like feeling that they have a motive, right? And you just keep going back and forth. And I love stories like that where the where you can't guess like who it is. But at the same time, I don't like stories that where you can't guess, or you keep thinking and then the author has the reveal and you're like, that makes no sense. In this particular book, I feel like it made sense. It was a dual thing. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. There wasn't like the murder and the kidnapping were one thing, and then we had that girl who went missing. That was another thing. It wasn't related. I'll just say that, and then I'm gonna have to stop because I've been told y'all the thing. But that was like, I really appreciated that, because it's like you got closure in more ways than one. Okay. Yeah, but I'm just laughing at my notes here because I'm like, oh, he's definitely the killer. Okay, so wait a minute. Does that mean he's the killer? Okay, so was it like like everybody, and I had a reason why. But and she also like explained a lot of things as to maybe, like, for example, how the pictures got on Courtney's husband's iPad, and things like that, so that you could start eliminating people, as like she would like kind of give an alibi of sorts, so that when you did find out like who actually, committed the murder and who actually, took Reese, or was Reese even taken, what happened to the girl whose poster, like everything, like every little detail was accounted for. And I appreciate that, because I think I read another one of her stories, the first book I read by her. I cannot remember if it's up here. I know it's on my shelf. Oh, Local Woman Missing. Yeah, this one, it was very graphic, especially detailing like this girl had been kidnapped and like what it was like, her conditions. This ending, hated it. Hated it because I just didn't think it was plausible. That just didn't make any sense to me. But here, I feel like everything tied together, and it made sense. It gave the reader closure, and it was as satisfying of an ending that you could get from a book where people's lives had been taken, and people were missing. But yeah, so it got me though. It got me because there was at a point I was kind of like, okay, where's this going? But I was so captivated that I had to know how it ended. And I will tell you, this title, and that's something else I really enjoy when I'm reading, and it normally is days after I've read something, and it was the case with this book. But a lot of times, like, there are some authors that are so clever that their titles of their books end up having multiple meanings. Like, there was this one book I read, and I'm not gonna like try to find it and tell you guys because I don't want this to be a spoiler. But the name of the book, you thought it meant like this one thing with the main character or whatever, but it actually, once you got the resolution and you found out, what happened and, all that stuff, it could have been applicable to the person who had committed the crime, right? And I will tell you, this title, on its face, it's not her, because it's Courtney is telling the police, because the police are like, Reese is the killer, that's why she ran. Where is she then? We can't find her because she probably killed her parents. Well, Courtney was just like, it's not her, she didn't do it, it's not her. So on its face, that's where the title came from. I don't think that's what what the author meant. And you have to read the book, because when you find out why everything happened and why her parents were even hurt, I think that's where the title actually came in, right? So yeah, so I really enjoyed it, outside of the whole sassy, surly, mean ass teens that were in the book. But everything else, I felt like it had all the perfect elements for this type of story. Right out the gate, there's something tragic or a crime has happened. You got police investigating. You got missing people. You got multiple suspects. You have motives, and then you start with alibis and crossing people off the list until you get down to the aha moments and pieces where, it was this person and this is why, and it made total sense. So yeah, It's Not Her by Mary Kubica. I really enjoyed this one. If you ever read It's Not Her, I would love to know your thoughts. And did you get the double meaning of the title after it was all said and done? Let's chat in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure that you like this video, and if you have not done so already, take the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. You guys are the best. Thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.